Hello, folks. Welcome to Scratch the Surface. My name's EJ Scott. Today, my guests are a married couple in real life, Lindsey Stoddart and Paul Vallaincourt. They are improvisers and actors and very talented people. And Paul was my teacher, my very first long-form teacher at IO West in 2003. And they come here and they talk to me about a bunch of stuff. And before I talk about that, I want to give myself a plug. Follow me on Twitter at EJ Scott, the podcast at EJ Podcast. My website's ejscott.com. Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Thanks. EJ Scott 1106 for all your puppy needs, puppy pick needs. I have a CrowdRise page where you could donate to charity. I have a bunch of very worthy charities that need help. That are up there, like Fuck Cancer and Hilarity for Charity, which is for Alzheimer's, Crohn's and Colitis, RettSyndrome.org, Choroideremia Research Foundation, Foundation for Fighting Blindness, lots of great charities, so please go check that out. I'm always trying to raise money for them. So that's crowdrise.com/7on7. That's the number 7 on the number 7. As well as Autism Society. I just want to throw that one in there. Okay, and my website, ejscott.com. Oh, and my documentary, Running Blind, is on iTunes, Amazon, and Google Play. You can find a digital copy on those 3 platforms. It only costs $2 or $3 to rent it or buy it, and it's well worth your time and money. It's about me running 12 marathons in 12 states in 12 months in 2012, and I did it because I'm going blind. I have an eye disease called choroideremia that runs through my family, and I'm always looking for ways to raise awareness and money for the cause. So go check that out. Yeah, I guess that's it. So Lindsey and Paul come over and we talk about tons of stuff. Obviously, we talk about improv and comedy. We talk about how they met. Spoiler alert, Lindsey was Paul's student. It's a pretty funny story. We talk about Lindsey's stalker issue. We talk about Paul being adopted and what that's like. We talk about improvising with some of the greats. Starting IO West. Paul, it was his idea to start IO West from Chicago. For those that don't know, IO is a Chicago theater, and when he moved out west to LA, he thought, oh, maybe we should open one out here, and it was a great idea. We talk about lots of stuff. We have a great time. We have some laughs. We get real here and there, but we had a good time, and I greatly appreciate them coming in. From April 21st, 2017, this is my talk with Lindsey Stoddart and Paul Vallaincourt. Hi, guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Really, really well.
Good. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I like having couples on. Real life couples. There's a nice chemistry and a dynamic,
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Otherwise
We'll
it's like
see.
super
This could
awkward
get
and tense.
sexy.
I mean, I could
or sad.
Yeah.
Sexy.
Could get sexy or sad.
I mean, I could trash this whole podcast, no problem, if it comes to it.
Great.
But Paul, you were my very first IO teacher.
Yeah.
Back in
Me
2001.
too.
Yep.
Me too, EJ.
Back in 2003.
Yeah.
Well, our relationship is different than your relationship.
You guys just had physical, and we have more of an emotional connection.
more
Very true.
Yes.
Very true.
But I moved out in summer 2003, and I think I signed up for classes that August.
Awesome.
I think that's right. And then I had you, and I was like, oh, this guy's great. And I was taking Second City and Groundlings all at the same time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was like,
One of those
just
guys.
do it. Let's do it. Don't
I have those people once in a while. They'll have like, oh, I'm taking IO and UCB and Groundlings and Second City, and they're just like running from like rehearsal to class to rehearsal to show, whatever.
That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, sure.
And you must have been like that back in Chicago.
Actually, I wasn't. I was. So I did it very sequentially. Like I was at Northwestern, and I was getting my master's in theater, which was a great use of money and time, but it was a great experience. I met a bunch of great people. All the guys that were on Bitter Noah with me and stuff, I all met at Northwestern, and then after that, I directed the Meow show there, which is the big improv show there, and then I went to Second City and I did that whole thing, and sort of at the same time that I was at Northwestern, and then when I was done with Second City, then I went to IO because Ed Herbstman actually turned me on to IO. I had never really heard of it.
Yeah,
I had heard of Del, but I hadn't heard of improv at the time, Improv Olympic. And Del was like, "You gotta come," or not Del. Ed was like, "You gotta come here," because that's where he had been. Because he started when he was really young, and he had sort of like ripped through Second City really quickly, and then ended up at IO, and so he was like my entrance into that.
And into improv too? Is that the first time you started doing improv?
No, I did improv in college at my undergraduate school at University of Maryland. I saw my first improv show when I was probably 2 months into my freshman year.
Was it like short form games and stuff?
Well, it was a combination. It was like my friend Thomas was like, "I'm doing this improv show. You want to come and see it?" And I was like, "Okay." You know how in college just do whatever comes along. Right. I was like, "All right." And so I went and saw it, and it was two halves. And the first half was all short form games and stuff, and fine. But then the second half was a Herald, and I tell this story all the time, but I'll tell it one more time. Is the
last time?
I'm sure it won't be. I started another class on Monday. I'll tell it then. But the second half was a Herald, and part of the Herald was this guy like trying to find out who made Muzak, right? So the whole time he's like questing, and then like towards the end he's like, "I'm going in there," and these two guys were like came to be guards, like, "No, you're not." "Yes, I am." He pushes past them, and then there was like a meeting table, and there was like he was like, "You guys, you make Muzak, Paul McCartney and Paul Simon and John Lennon and whatever." And then the guy who was Paul McCartney spoke up. He's like, "Right, we usually make the Muzak first, then jazz it up for everyone else." And I was like, it totally blew my mind. I was like, "Oh my God." And that's like literally the moment that I fell in love with improv, and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do with the rest of my life. And pretty much that was a straight line.
Yeah.
Like I ended up sort of joining and directing that group, and then I came to California on student exchange. I was in an improv group out here, and then at Northwestern, and then Second City, and then IO. I did comedy sports in the meantime, and I also was taking classes from this guy who was teaching in the basement of the Department of Defense.
What?
For some reason, he was somehow had an in at the DOD, so these classes were in the basement of the DOD. It was crazy. It was like clearly pre 9/11, but it was just like a bunch of actors like signing in to go into the DOD. It was nuts. It was like downtown in DC. Yeah.
Did you have to pay a rental thing?
I'm trying to think if we paid anything. If we paid anything, we paid him like a couple of bucks. But the good thing about that class was that guy was really tight with Michael Gelman. And so he brought Michael Gelman from Second City in to do like a 2-day workshop. And I was like, oh, this is great. Because I had been learning from other college kids or whatever. This is before I went to Chicago. I just finished at University of Maryland. And we'd just been teaching each other and sort of learning this way, right? This was before... a long time ago, before there was like festivals and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. You would just sort of learn it sort of word of mouth, like sort of underground, like really, really oral history. So like the people who learned it would teach it to the next generation before they graduated, you know?
Yeah.
And so
it's like the Dead Poets Society kids just teaching each other.
Exactly, basically. Yes, very much. And then, then hearing it from Michael Gelman, who even at that time had been at it for years and was like a total expert on it, was like, and someone who had such clear ideas about improv was world altering. And I was like, oh, I was like, so, and I asked him afterwards, like, so I don't really want to study improv. And he was like, you just got to go to Chicago. Like there's no two ways about it. And I was like, all right. And like a couple months later, I was out there, I moved.
I wish I had done that. I wish I had taken some improv in New York at a couple places. And then I took like a long time, about a year and a half off to work on Long Island. And during that time, I was like, I'm miserable. I loved improv.
Yeah.
I want to just do more of that. And I was reading the Tom Shales Saturday Night Live book. I don't know if you read it. But there was improv through the whole thing, basically. And they were a lot of talk about Chicago and LA and stuff like that.
And Del was very involved in the very first couple seasons, like said a lot of, his position was like house metaphysician, which I think means he got everyone weed or whatever. But
at SNL?
At SNL. Yeah. And so he was basically there sort of in that environment, sort of like influencing people. And Bill Murray was a student of his and stuff. And a bunch of Gilda and a bunch of those people sort of were from Second City, so had sort of passed sort of through his orbit, you know.
Yeah. Did you have Del as a teacher?
I did, yeah. A couple times, yeah.
What was that like? That was such
Great.
a...
It was really...
He's an improv guru, and he was also a madman.
Yes.
He died in the 90s
He
at
did.
like 62 or something.
Yeah. He was... he was great. It was great. It was really interesting because he was like... In terms of like the pyramid, he was like unquestioningly at the top of the pyramid, and so he would say something, and you'd be like, okay, like let's do that. Like, and his class was very loose in the sense that it was just kind of like whatever he was interested, that's what we would work on. So he would come in with an idea, and like one time, like around the same time that the Armando was sort of coalescing, he was working on his class on the idea of, can one person lead an improv? So those two things sort of really happened contemporaneously, sort of at the same time, and so I know that Armando and some of the guys had sort of consulted with Del on this idea, but we had been working on in class of like, can one person lead an improv? But in a way that was like, okay, there was like a lot of chanting and then like there's all these kind of crazy things. But when you have someone like Del, like who's at the wheel with that much gravitas, you feel like you can sort of go farther afield. You can risk more because you feel in a weird way safe in his hands. You know what I'm saying? That he's not gonna let you totally go crazy, you know, because he would just call, if it was bullshit, he would call bullshit. I mean, there's plenty of times that everyone in class had their turn where he would just totally tear you down, and you'd be like, yeah, you're right, that was terrible.
Sorry,
whatever. Right, exactly.
Make you cry and stuff like that.
Basically, everyone had their day. I remember my day for sure, and you know, it was just like,
what'd you do?
We were doing a thing called the check-in deconstruction, and I was doing this. A check-in deconstruction is basically where you sort of go kind of through your day, sort of playing it sort of as a solo scene almost, you know? And I was doing it, and he's like, all right. You're like, here it comes. And he's like, you don't need to take us through every agonizing detail. And you're like, oh, right, okay, Jesus. And then we were doing something else, and it just, you know, he talk about clear ideas. He had some very clear ideas of where he wanted it to go, or what he thought, how he thought we should explore it. And that was great. That was really important to have some boundary, like really big, like really sort of cosmic boundaries, but some boundaries where you sort of felt like someone was at the wheel. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. When did you move out there?
Out there?
In Chicago?
92 maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. It was really a super, super exciting time because it was like Del was still sort of young enough and strong enough and working a ton, and people were having classes and stuff. People were inventing shows, and the family was like at the height of their power, and they invented like the deconstruction and the movie and the impressionist horror and like all these different forms. And then after that, the Lindbergh babies invented the one person Herald and and all these different things. So it was super exciting. And there was just a bunch of talented people like ripping through. Like the family was Ali Faranakian, who went on to start the Pit, Pete Holney, who works a ton, Neil Flynn, who's been on The Middle and Scrubs, Adam McKay, who just won an Academy Award, Matt Besser and Ian Roberts, who started the
Did he win the Academy Award?
Yeah.
Adam won?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
He won for Big Short, yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't know.
For directing or for writing, I don't remember.
I think it was like, wasn't it the
Best
screenplay?
adaptation?
Yeah, I think it was the screenplay.
Miles, who started the Pack Theater, like every one of those guys was like a cutthroat killer. They're all...
Was Besser in there?
Besser, yeah. Him and
Horatio
Ian Roberts.
Was in there?
Who?
Was Horatio in there at all?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But they were all like killers, and just like they were like when I got there, they were like the unquestioned like best team in the history of improv. They were like phenomenal and crazy. They were so good that it would make me mad. I would leave their shows like, God damn it,
even when they do reunions at festivals or something, they're ridiculously.
They're great.
So
we just had our last Beer Shark Mice show of this run, and Adam happened to be there for like a Q&A he was doing at the IO, and he played in with us, and he was still like, it was like a fucking fire hose. He was so great. Like, I don't know how long it had been since he had done it, but he was killing it. Yeah. And we were all like trying to keep up with him because I think he had like all this sort of stored up energy, whatever, but he was like killing it and like doing all these crazy things. It was really interesting to see, to play with him and to see that. I hadn't played with him in years and years, you know?
Yeah.
And also at that same time, like Amy and Tina were just coming through. They were on the first team that I ever coached at IO. So it was like a very like fertile time. It was like drawing in because there wasn't, improv hadn't exploded in the way that it has now. And so it was a very concentrated thing. Like everyone who wanted to study improv had to go to Chicago. And they were either at Second City or at IO.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Groundlings was big out here, but in terms of like pure improv, like people were going to Chicago. Yeah. So it was like the best 2 or 3 people of every improv college group in the country. Yeah. Heading there. It was great.
That's what I should have done. And I basically moved here mostly because of the Groundlings.
Sure.
Because I was a Will Ferrell and still am
a
huge fan of his, and he went to the Groundlings. And I was like, maybe I should go to the Groundlings.
Yeah.
And I could start my career in Los Angeles. That was my thinking.
Sure.
But I should have gone to Chicago. I wish I had.
Well, it sort of depends on what you want to do. I mean, I honestly, if people want to get on SNL, the Groundlings is a great place to go because they have a very sort of set track. There's been tons of IO people there too, but the Groundlings is like pointed straight at it.
Yeah.
Like IO gives you a lot of skills and you can sort of apply those against a lot of different goals, but the Groundlings is like the training ground for sketch and big characters and this kind of thing that SNL really gravitates towards. Although it's different now because they are hiring a lot more stand-ups and like people with points of view. You know, like Andy Samberg is not like a big character guy,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
But his niche was the videos.
Yeah.
He was excelling at that.
Lonely Island, they sort of did all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but it's like it's different now than it was sort of during the Will Ferrell like heyday because that was their bread and butter at that time. I think.
Lindsey, I met you.
Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Yes,
I'm here.
Sorry, Val.
She went out for a smoke.
Started
smoking again and quit during this story.
But I met you during Paul's class. He took off one class or something, and you came in to fill in for him.
Did I?
Yep.
Oh, yes. I do remember that. Yeah, where were you?
I think I had an emergency at work, maybe.
Yeah.
And I just totally got hammered, and I had to like
forgot your second family, like the daughter from your second family had a recital. Yes, Olivia. I remember that. I had only coached a few times before then, but I remember your class, and it was lovely. Everyone was very kind to me.
Was that your favorite?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Naturally, EJ.
Well, you met Paul. You said earlier that you were his student.
Yes, he was my level 1 teacher. It does happen sometimes. It does happen sometimes. I understand.
Well, how'd that work out? Like you just what made you take
so far so good. 20 years later. A couple of kids.
What made you take an improv?
It's still working out.
Yeah, we're still feeling it out. What made you take an improv class?
I started taking a class there because I was going to start, I was going to do this independent film. Mm-hmm. And the other actors had been taking improv classes that were going to be in the film. And I was like, oh, well, shit, I don't know what improv is or anything. And so I better get in a class.
Yeah. And
so I went to IO because that's where they had gone. And that's when I met Paul Vallaincourt, you know. And this was Paul Vallaincourt, like vintage Paul Vallaincourt.
Which means
here we go.
Ponytail.
Yeah.
Fanny pack.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Love it first sight.
Like cargo pants.
Look, these cargo shorts here.
Yes, the cargo shorts. That's a battle I'm still fighting
to this day.
But I have gotten him in jeans, which is over the last 10 years, which I think is pretty exciting. Thank you. So yes, this was Paul Vallaincourt in his most Paul Vallaincourtness.
But she had a good vision. It's like when we saw our house, I was like, this place is a crap hole. And she was like, it has good bones. It has good bones.
Work in progress.
I feel like that's what she said about me to her friends. Like, it has good bones. I think I can fix that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's so funny and so smart. And those are like my two like G spots are funny and smart.
Okay.
So when he called to ask me out, like, week 3 of level 1.
Whoa!
I know.
Oh.
Red flag.
Oh.
Red flag.
It's a terrible move.
And right, yes. In retrospect, like nowadays, that would get you fired.
Oh yeah.
But back then it got you laid.
I should say after all the years of teaching, I had only ever asked out one student, this one over here, and we ended up getting married. So if that means anything.
What made you go, okay? I mean, were you like weird, like it's like my teacher, or were you already interested? Were you guys flirting and stuff?
We were not flirting, but I knew that I was like, I had told a girlfriend, like, I think I might be getting a crush on the improv teacher. And so then when he called to ask me out and hung up the first time.
Oh God, here we go.
And I star 69'd him.
For
your older listeners out there, I star 69.
That's not a sexual thing.
It's not a sexual thing, unless you're with a celebrity. Then that's a different star 69. No, do you know what star 69 is?
Yeah, it's to find you call back.
It calls
the person.
back.
Yes, before caller ID.
Yeah.
And yes, he had called, and
so he called and did not say anything and hung up.
Yes.
That's stalkerish.
I know, right?
Well, it's coinciding with time when I had a stalker.
Oh no!
So I had an opening.
Unbeknownst to me.
Another teacher? What do you teach?
No, no. I think we determined he worked at the laundromat in Venice near my
The stalker,
house.
not me.
The stalker. No, Paul was.
How was his ponytail?
I never saw him.
Okay.
It was, but he used to call me, and. Like tell me what I was watching on television.
Whoa!
Oh yes,
and
very terrifying. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, would leave messages on the voicemail.
And leave stuff in your car too, right?
Yeah. I would come out and like there would be flowers on my car, or my roommate. I had a male roommate. His tires would be flattened.
Oh.
Just like But this Paul Vallaincourt called during this time, where anytime I got a hang up or a weird call, I had to star 69. And then when there was no answer, I had to call the police and log the thing. There was no internet at this time. And
I just want to make clear, Paul, you were not that original stalker.
I was not that original
slicing
stalker.
tires. And
just to be clear, I was not that.
No, second stalker.
Second stalker.
I was the second stalker.
And so I star 69 because I'm like, here we go. The phone call, and then I star 69, and a machine picked up, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm getting somewhere.
Yeah, info.
But I couldn't, it's like, I like couldn't really understand the machine. And then I hear like, hello. And
that was me.
And that was Paul Vallaincourt. And I was like, I thought you were my stalker. Did you just call me? I'm star 69ing you. And he was like, yeah, I wanted to see if maybe you'd like to go out with me at some point in the future. And that may not be what he sounded like, but that's how I like to remember it.
Yeah.
And
as awkward as possible is how you like to remember.
Yes. And I remember being shocked and being like, okay, yeah, sure. And then he was like, well, why don't you come see my improv show, and then we'll go out to eat afterwards. Yeah. Now, why don't you come see Bitter Noah, and we're gonna do the movie, and then I'll take you out to dinner after.
Now, Paul, when she said, I thought you were my stalker, were you like, oh geez, this girl's got baggage or something?
No. He was like, this girl's gotta go.
She's in demand.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's in demand. I gotta get there before the stalker gets there.
Yeah, you could just get laid and then be like, and then just body parts by Valentine's Day. I don't have to get her a present.
Right.
And this is in LA?
Yeah.
It's in LA.
Yes.
This is when the IO is at the complex.
At the complex. Yeah.
So what was the Bitter Noah? So you went to see him?
No.
That's the thing. That was my whole plan, but that did not pan out.
Yeah, that was his. Yeah, but he didn't tell me when, like, what time the show was. Like, it was just like, this day, and I was like, all right.
But it was like it was like the biggest show at the theater at the time.
Right.
So I thought, whatever.
But I did not give a fuck about improv. I'm just there. I'm an actor, and I'm just like trying to learn. So when I'm on set, I'm not, out of my depths entirely. And so I asked a friend of mine who was also in the film that was taking class there. I was like, when is this show? Because again, no internet. This is pre-internet,
right,
or
sure.
at least
That's
when
true,
I had a computer.
right.
And he was like, I think it's like at 9. And I was like, okay, great. So I show up like a few minutes before 9. And they're like all standing out front, and I was like, "Hey!"
The show just ended,
and they're all in their suits, they're in their like Reservoir Dog suits, and Paul's got his ponytail, And
Well, I carried it everywhere.
yeah, I assume his fanny pack was like under his button down, and he tells me I missed the show, and I was like, I'm so sorry. But in my head, I'm like, well, you're kind of cocky if you think I'm just going to figure out what the time is, you know, like. But then we went to Swingers, and had dinner, and I was like, do you always ask out your students? Because it's creepy.
That's a good question. That's a fair question.
Fair question.
And he said no.
Just the pretty ones.
Hey-o.
Just one. Just one.
Yeah, he said no.
One.
This is the first time, and I was like, we'll see about that. And then he asked me, you said, should I cut my hair? You're like, my manager was like suggesting maybe I should
my hair, and she
cut my
could
hair.
not have said yes like quicker than she did. Like she was like as fast as she could get it out of her mouth. Yes, totally yes, you should.
And then the next time I saw him, like for class,
I had a short haircut.
he had no ponytail.
So he would take direction.
Yes.
Very well.
I was a good fixer-upper. I was ready to be fixed.
No, but he doesn't need. He's lovely. He doesn't need that much work. But the ponytail and the fanny pack, and then mercifully the fanny pack was stolen by like street toughs.
Oh, that's good.
And
That
so
you
then
hired.
that was gone. Yeah, I know. Honestly, it was. I was like, oh, I should have hired them to do this months
Ages
ago.
ago.
Yeah.
And so what happened with the rest of level 1? There's still 6-7 classes to go, right? And,
Yes, it was very awkward.
Right?
Yes, it was very awkward.
Did you have to keep it secret that you guys were a couple?
Yes.
I don't know if we had to, but we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did, because, you know, it's like it's new. It's already new when you're dating someone, you know that.
Yeah.
Like there's the good new part, but then there's like the awkward, like introducing it to the public. And I'm just meeting all of these improv people. Like one of my best friends who's like my brother is Ron Erdman, who was in my level 1 class. That's where we met, was in, you know, Paul's class, you know, so it's like I'm creating like new friendships, and it's like, oh, but now I have this like secret that I'm, you know, also dating the teacher. And one of the girls in the class was like super in love with him and like bringing him Cokes every day. Hi, Robinberg.
But wasn't also someone telling you that you should date me? Wasn't that someone telling you that?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, I thought that was part of the story. Never mind.
And were guys hitting on you at the same time? Because that tends to happen. When there's so few women in the improv community,
Right.
so many
Especially at the
nerdy
time.
guys.
Yeah, especially at the time, yeah.
I'm sure they were. I'm not good at picking up on that stuff unless you're my stalker, or like there was a guy once I remember on Cole right over there in Hollywood near like that gym.
Yeah.
I was parked and I looked in my rearview mirror because like something caught my eye, and it was a guy like wiggling his dick at me.
What?
And I was like, so when it's that obvious, I'm like, oh, they're interested. But if it's someone just like talking to me, like I feel like, oh, you just we're humans
just
having
talking,
a conversation.
And just
so,
to be clear, that again was not Paul Vallaincourt.
No.
Correct?
No.
Again, not me.
That was
Okay.
a young Noah Wiley.
Oh, no way. For VR and Falling Skies.
Yes. The next week I saw him. No, it wasn't Noah Wiley. It was a Hispanic kind of.
Luis Guzman.
It was Luis Guzman. It was a young Luis Guzman.
Who had just come from Gold's Gym.
Yes.
I'm feeling very confident.
Exactly.
Feeling really confident now.
Spend a little time in the posing room. I was ready to get there.
All right. So, were you fair to her in class? Did you
I
feel?
think so.
Did you feel like, oh well, that wasn't good, but I'll just let it go, or something?
No,
stuff like
because
that?
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's good for her. Like, she wanted to learn, and so I don't think sort of being like, good job, no matter what she did, was going to be good. I mean, I sort of gave you feedback like anyone else, right?
Yeah. I mean, I cried after class most times.
Good.
Which I felt like,
That's fair.
Progress.
Most people do. Most people do.
Yeah. No, he was lovely. The one thing I remember him saying was like, don't use that voice. And I was like, what? And it gave me a complex, like, to this day about my voice.
Right. Really?
Because I'm I'm so fragile inside. I seem like I'm tough as nails, but inside I'm just like a fucking, like, newborn baby.
I know this married couple, and the guy is a personal trainer. They're both actors, but he's a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. So he was trying to train her, and he would say, all right, go do some crunches. And she'd be like, what's wrong with my stomach?
Right. Yeah, you just read into all of it.
Yeah. And so he had to stop training her.
Yeah.
Well, we've been to the gym a couple times, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, because I don't like taking turns. I just want to do my thing and get out of there. I don't want like, now you do your set. It's like, no.
So you guys would work out together and you do
A
yours?
couple of times. I can't, because Paul likes the gym.
Yeah.
Like, Paul's like, oh, that's my temple. And I'm like, oh, this is my nightmare.
So she just wants to get it done as quick as possible.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
The same way.
I spin and I
Oh, is that better for you?
Do some hybrid classes. Yes. Because you're
that.
like in the dark, you're on a bike, you're sweating, I'm like blowing my nose in my towel, it's disgusting. And then you're done. You've worked out every part, you reek, you're disgusting at the end. And I haven't had to like hang out with like gym people.
Yeah.
You know.
They're disgusting.
They're disgusting. And they're all in really good shape, and who cares?
What happened with that stalker? What's the end? What happened there?
Oh, yes. Well, my lady detective, who I thought would be very helpful, was of no help. And I moved. I moved.
Lady detective? What does that mean?
I had a lady detective from the Venice
system?
Police Department,
Okay.
yeah. And, you know, to like figure out what was going on. And she was like, yeah, I don't know. Everything seems okay. Like, until you're really hurt, there's nothing I can do. And I was like, oh, yeah. I'm just like, this is great. So I moved to an upstairs apartment in my apartment building. I when that became available, I went upstairs. And then he couldn't see in my windows and tell me, like, what I was watching on television and stuff. And then it all just kind of stopped.
Change your number, I assume, and stuff like that. After, you know.
I must have. I guess I did, right? I should have.
I think at the time everyone was changed. When you moved, you just changed your number. I don't think we had the option to keep our numbers in those.
I don't know why you keep it if you were.
Okay.
I was in the same building. It was just a different apartment number.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need the same number. This guy has to reach me.
Yes. I don't know what he's capable of if he can't reach me.
He's not going to find
where
me
I live.
in the apartment. So.
Working a case for the LAPD, I need my same phone number.
Yeah. No, the cops were not helpful at all.
So did he just disappear?
He just, once he couldn't, like, access me, I assume he moved on or, you know, like...
Whoever moved in, he's like, all right, this person will do.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, oh, great. It was just, it had nothing to do with me. It was just
really
this was a
stalking that
convenient
apartment,
location. Yes. He just wanted to rent that apartment. And it was just, like, trying to creep me out. And I'm like, $700, 2 blocks from the beach. You're going to have to try harder than that.
So basically, his plan was the same as every Scooby-Doo villain. To creep you out until you left and he could have what he wanted.
Right, yeah. And he could open a carnival in the apartment.
Yeah, sure.
Well, all right. So, Paul, in Chicago, you were in Chicago for how many years?
Like 6.
6 years, from 92, 98, something like that?
Something like that.
So then you decided to move to LA because you're like, well, you got to move to LA to be an actor.
Well, I had sort
business.
of auditioned for Second City a few times and sort of wasn't making a ton of progress on that, and it was just like
For
that.
like the main stage and tours and stuff.
Yeah. That was like the thing. Otherwise, I kind of was like flat. Like I sort of was doing shows at IO and that kind of thing, and I had a job and I was working whatever, but I wanted to sort of move forward and do something else, you know, do something more, and that was like either Second City or leave town. So. At the same time, Bitter Noah got picked to go to the Aspen Comedy Festival, so I kind of took that as like a sign, like, well, let's move out, and then I had the idea to open IO West. I was like, I wonder if, and so I talked to Sharna about it, and then I was thinking, I'll open.
That was before you moved. You thought I had the idea.
Yeah, that was my idea. That's kind of why I moved out here, was kind of to open the IO West and to. Sort of find my fortune. And how
receptive was Sharna to that idea?
Very.
The owner of IO.
Very receptive. Yeah.
And this is after now Dell's passed
No.
away?
No. He was still alive. It was all still going strong.
Okay.
It was all still going strong.
So did you talk to him too about it?
I didn't.
Okay.
Sharna was the business. Dell was like the
art.
He was sort of like the mad genius. He'd be like, whatever, do whatever you want. Why not make it a commune? All right, I guess we could do that. So I sort of talked to her, and I sort of originally was sort of interested in like maybe franchising or sort of like whatever. And but then so we came out and looked at some. I had moved out here, and then she came out, and we looked at some spaces and took out a couple of ads in Backstage West and people showed up and we started having classes. And our original first location was the Stella Adler Theater on Hollywood Boulevard there, right across from Ripley's Believe It or Not. And we started with 3 classes and 2 shows, like Friday and Saturday nights. We were doing shows. It was Spinner Noah at the time. We were first doing shows, and then we added the Armando show. And then, oddly enough, once we just kind of said the words Armando show out loud, like all these like IO expatriates like turned up out of the woodwork.
Oh wow!
Like tons of people. Like Pete Holney was already here. Pete Gardner was already here. Dave Keckner and like all these people just like sort of showed up. They were like, "Hey, I heard there's a show. What's it going?" Steve Carell was there a couple times. Like just knowing that there was like an IO sort of style long form show, people just showed up like out of the. Andy Dick was there a bunch of times. Just people just showed up out of the blue to be a part of this thing. They just loved the work so much that they just showed up. It was crazy.
They were trying to capture that little bit of Chicago.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's sort of really the strong suit of iOS is that I do think it has a lot of that community. Universally, when people tell me that they liked IO, like one of the top things they mention is like, I just really love the sense of community here and whatever. And I think that people really like that. And I think the people who had to leave that to come to LA were so psyched that was coming back.
Yeah.
And we would do our shows at the Stella Adler Theater and then go around the corner to this bar called the Powerhouse Bar and drink and stuff and whatever, and then from there we moved to the Complex, and then from there we moved to where we are now on Hollywood Boulevard.
On beautiful Hollywood Boulevard.
Scenic Hollywood Boulevard. Although I'll say the neighborhood is much nicer now than when we first moved in. Like we were at the very outskirts of walkable Hollywood, and now there's a Starbucks that's even more west than us, and there's all kinds of stuff like restaurants and stuff around. There wasn't anything when we first moved there. It was like
just the frolic room,
the frolic room,
and stripper stores.
Right, totally, lots of that. And then across the street was this store called Antenna, which I think may or may not still be there. There was like a clothing store of some sort, but like just nothing kind of west. It was like we were on the very outskirts of it. But now there's a ton of stuff there.
I got there in 2003. So how long was IO West there at that point? A couple of years, I guess.
Just a couple of years, probably. Yeah.
Wow, that new. I forgot how new that was. So what was it? How hard is it to start a theater?
Well, at the time, not super hard. It was like I was really surprised. I think that the reputation of the IO was good, and Sharna hired a marketing company, but I don't really know that they helped at all, honestly. But we just put the ads in the Backstage West and in improv classes and stuff, and people started calling and signing up. And once you have like that first generation, then word of mouth spreads and stuff. And we were putting ads in the LA Weekly and stuff, really working that hard at the time and stuff. And once you sort of get shows going on and reputation happening, most of the people...
And there was really funny people. It's like, the lampshades. Scott and Kate were doing the lampshades. And, And
I know Ron, that she mentioned before, he signed up because he had come to see the movie with his friend Jeff Kamen, who also signed up. Like, people were looking for something, I think. I don't know.
And the people taking, like, when I was in class, like, that's where I met, like Wendy Molyneux and Wyatt Cenac and all, it's like there was just a bunch of young, funny, hungry people that all got together and, just started doing this stuff. And, that shit just spreads like, it's like herpes. It's just like once you get one, it goes everywhere. Before you know it, they're down your leg.
I've never had herpes.
But people.
Oh, well, that's because once you have it, it's there forever, EJ.
But I think people were sort of like, people are usually friends with people who are like-minded in a certain way. So once one person from a group like got in, then they tell their friends and so and so and so, and that's kind of like how it really started.
Who from Bitter Noah was out here when you started?
Everybody moved out here really, because we did the Aspen Comedy Festival and we did some shows before that. So the original kind of crew here was me, Cara McNamara, Dan Weiss, Jason Weiner, Ed Herbstman, Adrian Wenner. Oh, is that my?
No, I think that's it. And you.
Just the 6 of us, yeah.
Did you guys do Aspen a couple times or just the one?
Just the one time.
One time.
Yeah.
Did you start? When was the? Well, I know the festivals started
They started sort of after I was kind of like a little bit more out of the business.
Yeah. So what happened? So you moved it to Hollywood Boulevard. What made you kind of give up the reins there?
I was sort of working a ton and just wanted to do other stuff. You know, it was just like, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't want to do it as a full-time job anymore.
What were your hopes and dreams for that time? Yourself. I
wanted to sort of get more like deeper into show business. I feel like this is show business adjacent, but I wanted to get deeper into it and sort of be writing and acting and that kind of stuff. And around that same time, I sort of fell into reality TV and did that for a few years.
Yeah, I remember.
And that kind of stuff. And so I was doing that, and that was like my day job, and that was making way more money than I was making running the IO. You know?
What'd you work on reality-wise?
Oh gosh, a ton of stuff. I worked on a bunch of stuff for MTV. Well, I created 2 shows for MTV. One was called Homegrown Video, and one was called The Blame Game that ran for 3 seasons. So we did that. Maybe actually 4 seasons. And then it was kind of like a follow-up to Singled Out, coincidentally, that Lindsey worked on.
Yeah.
And then I did some basically regular reality for MTV, stuff like the T.O. show with Terrell Owens and There and Back Again with the Ashley Parker Angel story, and 3-6 Mafia, and a show called Dance Life with J-Lo, and just a bunch of these little MTV ones. And then I worked on Real Housewives of Orange County, and I worked on a show with Ozzy and Jack Osbourne just recently. Just like, you just hop around, just this and that.
We do. That must be really interesting to work with all these I mean, they're on reality shows. When
I say work with, I mean, so I'm doing more like post production, like sort of story editing, and sort of like,
you don't interact with the
a little bit sometimes, but mostly they're sort of in the field producers. That's their problem.
Yeah,
you got to work with like Janice Dickinson.
Oh yeah, I did work sort of very closely with Janice.
What was that like? She is
a personality for sure.
Yeah.
Like I had to go over to her house, and she had like laid out like as if an army was coming over, like all this food. She's like, eat, do you want to eat? Do you want like all this food, which was crazy. And then she talked faster than anyone I've ever known, like just this story and that story and this thing and that thing, whatever, and blah 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 blah. And then she's like looking at me a little bit like I'm a pork chop, and then she sees my ring, and then we're sort of talking about that, whatever. Like I'm like, are you hitting on me, or just like whatever? Is this like the thing? It was like a whirlwind. Like, and then at the end of the thing, I feel like I got spit out of the house. I just landed in my car, like, oh my god. But it was fun. She was super cool. Super cool. And so I worked on a show with her, sort of coaching her, working with her on this. It was sort of like a hybrid, kind of scripted, but based on her life kind of a show.
Yeah, on MTV, right?
For MTV, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
What, J-Lo, did you have an interaction with her?
No, when she came into the office, it was like a total lockdown. Like, yeah. I don't think anyone I think the editor and like the executive producer, like, she wanted to come in and see stuff, and it was like, we had like 12 like hour-long episodes, but she was there for like 45 minutes, watched like 3 things, and then was out. I think in the long run, I think she just looked at her scenes that she was actually in. Okay. And was out.
Right. I did extra work on a movie called Made in Manhattan.
Sure.
That she was in, and and I walked on the set. They call the extras.
Joseph Fiennes, Ray Fiennes. There was a Fiennes in that.
It was very fine.
Yes.
And I walk on set, and she's like, in full view. I'm just walking past, but she's like having this hissy fit and telling like somebody like, he's not letting me do this, and I'm like, wow. I don't think I'm supposed to see that.
Right.
But she wasn't hiding it.
She said, off with his head. But yeah, I didn't really get to meet her. I met the 3-6 Mafia guys. They were all very nice.
Oh, I had an
Academy Award winners.
Yeah, Academy Award.
Mafia.
Exactly, that's true.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
It's hard out here for a pimp.
It sure is. Last night, random, I met Marilyn Manson.
Oh wow.
Which was very random.
In makeup or sans makeup?
I think mostly sans, and it was pretty dark. But I was with Deborah, and she said he was wearing some like eyeliner or something.
Guy liner.
Guy liner, I guess. That was pretty interesting. He was talking somewhat incoherently about some random stuff.
Sure.
Did he identify himself as Marilyn Manson? Was he like, hi, I'm like whatever his real name is. Hi, I'm Phil.
His friend introduced him as Manson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's another level.
That's another level.
That's another level.
But he was very nice, I have to say. Although he was kind of out of it, he was complimentary to my girlfriend, who he enjoyed on True Blood. And
Sure.
Well, she's lovely. If she wasn't complimentary, that would be another strike against
yeah, right.
Manson.
But it was a real interesting experience. But that's how it is in LA sometimes. Like these really random.
Sure.
You can just walk into a place. It's like, oh, I now have a story to tell.
Right.
Later on.
Right.
Like, Lindsey, you're from California.
I am.
Born, you've been here your whole life.
Third generation.
Third generation.
Yes.
Which part were you born?
I was born in Carmel, California.
Carmel.
You may know one of our mayors. His name is Mr. Clint Eastwood.
Oh.
Former mayor of Carmel.
Heard of him. He's a director now.
Yes, I've heard that. I've heard he's gotten into show business.
Yeah, they all do. They all do. But my parents moved down to the South Bay of Los Angeles when I was a toddler. Okay, for work stuff?
Yes, my dad was an entrepreneur and was looking. He had been a wine grape grower for a while and had a Christmas tree farm and had all sorts of different kind of businesses that he had started. And then he wanted to get into the energy business. And it was better for some reason to be down here. So they moved to Palos Verdes,
solar
California.
energy, that type of stuff?
No, crude oil, man.
Oh,
this was, the 70s.
Okay.
This was drill, baby, drill.
Okay.
So yes, a lot of trips to like Bakersfield and Texas and stuff like that. But they moved to Palos Verdes because there were good schools there, and which is a little beach town, about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Drive from here if traffic's okay, and maybe you do the toll lane.
Okay.
And
you have siblings?
I do. I have one older sister.
One older sister. So the
Lisa.
four of you guys traveling around.
Traveling around like a pack of hobos.
Right. Did you know you wanted to be an actress? Were you an entertainer back then?
I mean, I think I started figuring that out around high school. In middle school, I remember wanting to be a lawyer. I remember like that was what I wanted to do, and I had already tried to sue someone.
Over what?
Well, I had sprained my ankle playing softball. I played softball like year round, and I played for the city. I was very into softball.
Yeah.
And I had sprained my ankle, and so I had to get crutches. And at the pharmacy where you got the crutches, I was like, this doesn't feel totally right. And the girl was like 18 and just like over it and was just like, they're fine. Just like leave the pharmacy so I can like go pop a pill. And later that night, she was in pharmacy.
Give her a break.
Later that night, that crutch collapsed and I broke my toe. Caused me to break my toe.
Whoa.
Yes.
That's not good. That's not good.
No. And, and I'm probably like 12, something like 11, 12, something like that. And I was just like, I told her this crutch was not right. We're suing. And my mom was like, shut up, we're not suing. And like, the next day was like a Sunday. Because I remember I got out the phone book and just went in the yellow pages and was like, I'm finding a lawyer and we're suing this pharmacy. And I just left a bunch of messages for different lawyers. Like, I'm Lindsey Stoddart and I want to sue this pharmacy because they gave me crutches that broke. And then my mom, I didn't tell my mom. And then Monday she was getting all these calls back from like lawyers like, yes, we're interested in your case. And
she's like, what case?
Yeah. And so I was very like, I'm a Libra. So, I'm very scales. I'm very justice oriented.
Okay.
And so then I was like, this is my passion. And then I kind of realized like, no, I like the drama of it. I loved LA Law. I loved that. And then I was like, I think I want to be an actor. And so then in high school, I started doing theater. And then my parents moved, the middle of my freshman year, I had to move, which was terrible.
To
La Quinta, California, which is out near Palm
for
Springs.
Another entrepreneurial adventure?
No, my dad was retiring.
Okay.
He had like sold a company and was able to, have a decent nest egg. So they were like, well, let's buy a place out there because they're golf and tennis people. And it's like, let's buy a place there. Our money will go so much further than in LA. And this is, like 89, 90.
Okay.
And So as a byproduct of that was that I had to be ripped from everything and everyone I had known. Moved out to the middle of nowhere.
Was that hard?
Yes.
Yeah. Like you have to make new friends and
yes,
all that stuff.
And the only way I learned to make friends was spend time around people your entire life. I'm not the person that's like, hey, I can have a conversation about anything with anyone. That's not me. I get very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it was, it taught me like a whole new level of empathy. It's like, when you go somewhere, especially at that time of life, and especially when you're, 5'10" and 100 pounds.
Right.
And a rocker chick.
Right.
So it's just like, I could not have been less helpful to myself in the making new friends department.
Right.
But
were you resentful to your parents for like, again, god damn, I just started liking it here?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I was mad at them because we were we were leaving, but I didn't carry it around. I feel like I tried to use it like, oh well, since we moved, like I tried to use like, well, since the divorce, I guess I'll just act however I want, kind of thing. They did not get divorced, but I had that kind of thing, and they were like, no, and I was like, all right. I gave up really quickly.
Were you a rebel growing up?
Yes.
What'd you rebel against?
Anything popular.
Okay.
And anyone who liked popular things.
Okay.
I was
just
very
to be different or something.
Well, I was very, I was very into heavy metal.
Yeah.
And
what would you like? Who'd you listen to?
Metallica.
Sure.
Who I'm going to see in July. I'm very excited.
I'm so
The Rose
jealous.
Bowl.
I'm so jealous. I hate the Rose Bowl, so otherwise I'd try to go out there.
I know. Well, we've got general admission.
Yeah.
So, because I don't want to be at the Rose Bowl in the nosebleeds. Like I've seen Metallica at the Rose Bowl like in nosebleeds, and I wasn't going to do that again. But very into Metallica, Jane's Addiction, Nirvana started to happen my senior year in high school, which was very exciting. And from my high school was Sons of Caius. Caius was from my high school. So like Josh Homme was like, his band was like the high school band and stuff, who now does a ton of stuff with.
Did you ever play an instrument?
In elementary school, I tried to play the violin.
That's not very rock and roll.
No, it was very not rock and roll, which is why I gave it up immediately.
Yes. Smashed it
on the ground. No, I didn't start getting into music until like 5th grade. I discovered Van Halen. Van Halen 1984 came out with the little baby smoking a cigarette on the cover.
Sure.
My mom was like, that's terrible, that cover. But
didn't you also harbor a fantasy of being like a bass player? Wasn't that part of the thing?
Yes, in high school I did play bass, and I was in a band.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
But I couldn't play very well.
Okay.
I like to listen to music, but I should in no way be a part of the making of it.
Okay. What was singing? Did you try any singing, backup singing, any of that stuff?
The guy, it was like weird. We had this like other high school kid. It was like the Steve Sanders from 90210 that was like, I'm putting together an all-girl group. And we're like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And he's like, you're the singer. And I'm like, yes, okay. And I think we had a couple rehearsals and no professional or amateur shows. And yeah, I was very into the underdog and fuck anybody who tried to shit on anybody else. I was very.
Were you a good kid though? Were you trouble to your parents? It sounds like not really.
No, you know what? I was good at not getting caught.
Okay.
I did.
There's an art to that.
So many things, but my sister had gotten caught a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think my parents were like, just don't get caught. Like they were strict with like grades and stuff like that. But,
yeah.
But I was good at
like drug
the
stuff,
lies,
drugs and boys and stuff
yes,
like that.
Like I was into drugs in the way that you should be into drugs, which is like, oh, this is fun, and then when it's not fun, you stop.
Yeah.
I wasn't like I had my cousin had died of a heroin overdose when I think I was around 11.
Oh wow,
I was around
cousin?
13. Yeah.
Wow.
So
that must have been hard.
I had seen, yes, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And so I had seen up close, like, there's a line. There's fun stuff, and then there's heroin, and, speed and all those things. And there were lots of people into that in high school because out in La Quinta there was nothing to do.
Really?
Except, fuck and do drugs.
Yeah.
And so that was not I wasn't going to get super serious about it. But yeah, I mean, I certainly did things that
that guy, your
hope my
cousin,
kids never
your
did.
cousin must have been young when he died.
She was young, 19, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Terrible. Horrible. But you see those things when you're a kid, and you don't realize how bad it is when you're a kid because you're kind of like, I think you understand that it's horrible and you're sad, but it's like life still hasn't figured out like that permanence and impermanence still didn't really register to me, that it's like that life is gone off the earth forever.
Right. And kids are generally about themselves.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, right?
But I think it's just seeing that, knowing that, oh my God, that's possible.
Were you guys close?
Stuck with me.
Were you close with her?
Not the last few years of her life because she was pretty, she was doing her own thing.
Did she go to rehab at all or anything? Try to clean up? Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, it didn't work out. I know. It's...
Is addiction in your besides her, is there addiction in your family?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on one side, yeah. So it's, it's definitely something that I think once you know it kind of exists, you either decide I'm going to keep an eye on that, or you're just kind of like, well, fuck it, I'm screwed. May as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
And, I still drink and do lots of drugs, but I have my eye on it. It's not a problem, right?
Stop whenever I want.
Yeah.
Just wipe your nose a little.
Oh, is that? No. Just,
Well, that's got to be scary to have kids and know that, addiction's in the family and whether they going to...
Well, and Paul's adopted, so we don't know what's going on there.
True?
There's
True,
a total mystery bag
Really?
Yeah. Whenever I go to the doctor, they're like, do you have history? I'm like, I have no history. None at all.
Jason Bourne.
I only have two blood relatives that I know, and I'm the father of both of them.
Well, that's interesting. So you were one as a baby, I guess.
Yeah, I was like 3 months old. It was like really early.
Is there a record of your parents? Like, is there
Not
one of those
really.
things where you had the option at 18 to contact them? Or
No,
anything
not really.
like
This
that?
was like back in the olden days.
70s.
The olden 70s. Oh,
60s,
EJ, you are a
67.
very
67.
kind
60s.
host.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just turned
Yes.
50 this year.
Wow,
Young
happy
man.
birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, so I have I think I have like a birth certificate that has my original sort of birth name on it, but
Mark with a C.
Mark with a C.
So we know his parents were douchebags.
I think they were college students that were a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was born in New Haven.
Yeah.
New Haven,
So
Connecticut.
Yaleys.
Right? Is it,
Douchey Yaleys.
Yeah.
so when did you find out you were adopted?
Oh, I knew my whole growing up.
You did?
I don't
Okay.
remember ever really finding out.
Okay.
I just always knew, and it was never an issue. Whenever I tried, like Lindsay, whenever I tried to make it an issue, my parents were like, "No." I'd be like, "All right."
That's good, right? That's smarter to do than make it some
I think
sort of
so.
traumatic thing.
I think so because I had a friend who was a friend of mine in high school who found out like in high school that he was adopted and lost his GD mind. Like was just like unmoored from. He was like totally disoriented after that. You know what I'm saying? It was like shocking to him.
Because it's like you've just been lied to your whole life.
Yeah, and also sort of these sort of connections that you make, like, oh, I'm like that because of them, or this, what, and then you're like, no, this is like, no, what counts? And like, I think it's like, I think you just tell the kids and just make sure they know that it's not an issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially since I was adopted, and my sister was not adopted.
Older, younger?
Younger.
Younger sister.
So we always grew up. It was like never an issue. It never came up, and.
Well, adoption is only a positive thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's a stigma to it, I guess, or at least there was a stigma to it, but I'm not even sure where that comes from. Like, does it come from...
It comes from blood, that people believe in blood. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, it's that same sort of mentality that like when babies get switched at birth and you have a baby for a year and then you find out it's not your baby, that you want that other baby.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? You just had this baby for a year. How can you possibly abandon that baby? Like, I get wanting to have both babies. Like, I get that part of it.
Right.
But to switch babies back, like, you got to be out of your mind. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's insane.
It's totally insane, right? I mean, it's complicated as all get out, but it's like, what?
Did you ever think about adopting?
Do we think we sort of talked if we wanted to have a third kid, we thought we would adopt.
Really?
Yeah.
And your parents...
But we're over that. We're not
Yeah,
going to do that.
we don't want a third kid.
Well, your parents, so they adopted first.
Yeah.
And
Which
then-
is super common. Like my parents
it
tried
is.
to have kids and they couldn't
Oh.
for one reason or another get pregnant, and then they adopted me, and then my sister's only 2 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
But that happens all the time.
It's like you
okay.
relax, you stop stressing about it,
Yeah.
and then like your egg drops.
Yeah. It happens actually quite a bit.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Do you know a lot about adoption now?
No, not a ton, but I know that much. But my sister's also adopted 2 kids.
Oh, she has? Oh,
Yeah, she didn't have any biological kids. She adopted 2 kids and never even wanted to have. She was like really committed to the idea of adoption in a really interesting twist.
Like her parents,
I guess, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
She's like, look how good my brother turned out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great.
He was a screaming deal.
What were you like as a kid? I mean, obviously super cool.
The best.
Super duper
The
cool.
best. I was like a parent's dream. I was like totally like, can I just stay up and study a little bit longer? I was like very, very bookish and, very shy and stuff. It was like
D&D.
lots of D&D in my
Oh,
past
my
and stuff, and reading comics and stuff like that. I was a total Boy Scout. Like I have only smoked one joint in my life, and I was like 25 or 26 when I did, and never been drunk and whatever. Just never caught on to any of that stuff. So I was a pretty easy kid, I think, as things go.
Deborah is obsessed with D&D.
Yeah,
Obsessed.
it's been sort of, I've been seeing a lot more about it on the Facebook lately, because Brian's
O'Connell.
his girlfriend is a dungeon master, so now it's sort of like it's all of a sudden like I see a ton of it.
Wait. What do you mean as a dungeon master?
My girlfriend's a dungeon master.
That's the person who runs the
game.
Right,
the
but
game.
it's like when I assume that means like when you sit down to play, but is a dungeon master mean like that she'll go to places that they don't know and be like, oh yes, I'm your dungeon master tonight?
No, I don't
not
think
like a waiter
so.
or something.
No.
Okay.
No,
I'll be serving you good adventures this evening.
but I mean, she's kind of the host of the game, and she makes
Deb
the
is?
game. Yeah.
Oh.
She decides.
Who were the other people? Just
friends.
your friends?
Players, yeah.
Okay.
And she decides like the paths and things like that, and like, oh, if they go around here, they have this waiting for them, and she obsesses on it. She makes maps. She writes stories.
Wow.
All this stuff. It's
Wow,
crazy.
and do you guys have an ongoing campaign that you're doing?
She does.
She does?
I tried playing twice. It's not for me.
What? I remember loving it as a kid. Loving
Have you done
it.
it lately? I'm sure she would play with you.
Oh, that would be great. That would be
Sure,
really fun.
yeah.
I was thinking, like, is there a game I can get into somewhere?
Yeah.
I love it.
I'll
I was
tell her.
thinking, how can I spend less time at home?
That's my big limiter for sure is time, not interest. But it played into everything that I liked, like fantasy and reading and drawing and writing. It was like everything sort of was like perfect match for me.
Yeah, and were you a creative kid?
Yeah, pretty creative, like drawing and sculpting and stuff like that. I was very more sort of artsy per se when I was a kid. Did more of that stuff, and then I started doing drama in high school.
Drama in high school. Musicals?
Some.
What'd you sing?
Gosh, when I was in college, I did a ton. I was like in Bye Bye Birdie, and I was in Cabaret, and I was in Fiddler on the Roof, and I was like a bunch because I was like a guy who could kind of like for a musical for but for a college, a guy who could dance. So I wouldn't.
Now he's playing down this dancing.
At a certain point.
But I will tell you, like, I specifically remember when we were dating, like him saying, like, "Oh no, I'm definitely a dancer," and I was just like, "What?" Yes, you like. It was like I think you thought like I would be impressed by that.
I don't know why I thought that, but
I don't know why you thought that either.
But the long and short is, when I was in college, I had done a couple of musicals, and then it got out that I could dance at least.
It got out. It got out.
is he a
It's
good
everyone's
dancer?
talking about.
Let me just the point of the story is that at a certain point I stopped having to audition. People would just call me to be in their musicals, not as a star, but as like someone in the chorus dancing, and it was like fine. It was like great. I did West Side Story. I'm trying to think what other. I did a ton of them.
So you're a good dancer. He's a good dancer. Would you confirm that?
I'm a good musical dancer. You've never seen me dance. Have you? I don't know. We've never gone out dancing.
No?
We did.
Oh, yeah, we
went out
have.
dancing
That's
in San
true.
Francisco
That's true.
recently. And it's pretty much the same move. But it's a fine one.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a big dancer.
Not a good like social dancer. I'm fine in a musical.
He needs choreography.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Well, now I know this for the future. It'll be 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right. When we're gonna go out dancing, we'll have a couple of months of rehearsal, and then you're ready to go.
What? All right. So you guys start dating.
Yeah.
Lindsey, you finished classes there, I assume, right? You went through the program.
Yes. I did. I think when I finished, there were only 5 levels.
Yeah, I think something like that. That's true.
I remember. Yes, I had Paul Vallaincourt, and then maybe James Grace, and then I want to say Scott Robinson.
Did you have Pete?
And maybe Pete Gardner, and then wrapped it up with Neil Flynn.
Oh, Neil was teaching back then.
Neil was my level 5 teacher.
Wow, that's cool.
And Mike Coleman was my first coach.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
We were the House Herald team, and
did you have to audition?
No, they were just like they were just desperate. It's like, oh, tits, vagina, please come on this team.
That was the name of your first team, Tits Vagina.
Tits Vagina.
we were making
show.
teams at the time. I think most theaters, as they grow,
you were just put on a team.
You're just put on a team, and there's some attrition and some sort of jiggering around with teams and stuff like that. But yeah, we were just making teams at the time.
Yeah. Suck It Up, Johnny, I think was.
Suck It Up, Johnny. I think you're right.
With Ron Erdman and I want to say Matt Corboy.
Maybe.
And Dennis Gubbins, because I remember Mike Coleman getting so pissed off. No, it was Dave Cox.
Oh, Dave Cox.
Dennis Gubbins was on too, but Dave Cox. And I remember Coleman getting pissed off at something that Dave Cox did, or maybe it was, I can't remember what it was, but I remember that was the first time I ever found out what prison pussy was. And I'm forever grateful for learning that, because Mike Coleman used that phrase.
So how long were you guys dating before you were like, time to pop the question?
For 3 years, right? We dated for 3 years.
So what was that?
Like 2 years, and then we were married after 3. We dated for 2 years, and then
he asked me
to marry, and then
yeah.
Was that 2000, 2001?
We got married in 2000.
Yeah, married in 2000.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So engaged in 99.
Yeah.
Something around there.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
how was the proposal? What was that like?
Oh, anticlimax.
Really?
Yeah.
It was terrible.
It was not terrible.
Well, you tell.
Was there dancing?
There was no dancing.
I know. I was like, but word has gotten out. It's spreading like wildfire. It was my birthday. It was October 2nd, 1999. It was my birthday. Libra. And I was working at the Viper Room at the time. And
what were you doing there? Waitressing?
Yeah, I was a cocktail waitress, at the Viper Room for a couple of years. And I remember the night before my birthday, like I had picked him up after work or something, so it was like 3 a.m. when I picked him up, and he was like, "Do you want your birthday present?" And I'm like, "I'm so tired. I just want to go home and like back to my place in Venice. I'm like, I just want to crash." And I said, "Just give it to me tomorrow." And which is not like me, because I do love presents, but I was just like, "No, I'm just tired."
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I waited, because I was tired and I would have been excited, but then he would have wanted to have sex and I would have been like, I'm so tired. So the morning of
Is that so unreasonable?
No, it's very reasonable, but I would have.
Right, sure. If you're tired.
Tired.
I guess.
Serving.
She's been on her feet all night.
Been on my feet all night. Serving, yeah. And so I remember he woke me up in the morning and was like, "Hey, happy birthday." And I'm like, "Oh God." And
because I've been living with this secret.
Right, yeah. He's like, it's eating him up inside. And so I went to pee, and then I came back to bed. And
more of the story that we need to know, really.
And that's good.
No, I could have said it was number 2, but it wasn't.
Was it? Okay.
No, I never pooped that early in the morning. I never poop. I'm not a morning pooper.
Tell your story. Tell the story.
And I was like, okay. So we were sitting in bed, and he handed me the box, and I opened it up, and I was like, oh shit, it's this engagement ring right here. And I was like, oh my God. And he goes, it's an engagement ring.
Right, because she didn't say anything.
It's a friendship ring.
Yeah, and I was like, I know.
Now you're gonna fight.
Yeah, it's like because
It
you
started
see
out
this
pretty much how the
ring.
whole marriage has gone, sassy from the get.
No, but you see this ring and you're in shock, and I guess I kind of expect that he's going to then have like Lindsay.
Yeah.
I love
Right.
you. Something's going to happen.
Which is what I should have done.
You are an improviser.
Right.
At the very
But
least.
not at this moment. Not at this
At the
moment.
very least.
And then he just, he looked at me and he said, so how about it?
I just want to say, I started by saying it was anticlimactic. It was anticlimactic, for sure.
No, it was very sweet.
It was not. It was terrible. It was the biggest regret.
No, oh my God. If that's your biggest regret, life's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
So how goes it?
Yeah. So, what do you say?
What you thinking, Toots?
Yeah. And so I said, of course,
That's so
yeah.
funny.
And but it was nice. It was
Was there a kneel? Did you kneel?
No, we were sitting in my bed.
Okay.
In Venice Beach, California, and
On the second floor. The
second floor,
stalker-free second floor.
Yep, the stalker had given up.
The stalker said, "Yes, say yes."
Right. Yes.
The stalker called. It's an engagement ring.
Right. What do you think I should do? Are we ever gonna happen?
You've known me longer.
Right. So yeah, and then yeah, this year September will be our 17th wedding anniversary.
17 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
January we had our 20th anniversary of dating.
Our first date, right? It's true.
Yeah. So it's
January 24th.
Yeah.
The night swingers was the 20th.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. First date.
Wow. that's
Sometimes
very
we go
romantic.
there for we'll go have breakfast there or something to celebrate our little
that's
anniversary.
nice. That's
yeah.
true. And how old are your kids now?
6 and 8.
6 and 8, almost 9. Almost 9 next month. Yeah, we did it. We had sex.
You had sex
2 times.
Couple times.
But we also,
we had babies.
I also say we also waited a long time because we've been married for 17
To have
years.
sex?
Yes.
Yeah. I was tired a lot.
For the first 10 years. But we waited to have kids for a while.
Yeah, because you were in your 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you, I assume, were in your 30s.
I was in my 30s, yeah. Yeah, no longer, but I was when I had kids.
What was the wait? Why the long wait? Because of actress and I assume stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I have always been very career focused and driven, and that's really where my head was like, I was working and I wanted to keep working, and
I don't think we were in a rush. We were just kind of like traveling light and kind of doing this and that and whatever.
And we never made decisions based on money.
Right.
Like we weren't people that it was going to be like, well, we should do this because we'll make the most money. It was like, well, let's do this because we want to follow our passions. So the idea of kids and family and stuff was just
makes that calculus more complicated.
Yeah, and it's just I never want us to be in a situation where we have to do something we hate.
Right.
Take some terrible office job because,
Cubicle job.
just something that, works for 90% of the people in the world, but just we're a part of that 10% that it just doesn't, I'm not a weekend warrior. I need to, I like to love what I'm doing as much as I possibly can.
And when you have kids, that's a big consideration.
Right, yeah, you gotta
provide for them for sure.
Be a grown-up for sure. Yeah. So but like everyone tells you, you'll find if you guys ever do it, it's just you think oh no, how are we going to afford it? Am I going to work again? And then it's yes, you work again, you work more.
And
it's
there's an old saying that a baby always arrives with a loaf of bread under its arm.
Yeah, so and it's
you figure it out.
I don't know that.
Yeah, no.
It just means that you figure it out. You sort of find that bounty that you need.
It was the same people
where do
talking
you
about
get the
Paul's
bread?
dancing cat. That's
It comes with the baby, which is the weird part. So you really can't eat. I mean, you could eat it, but it's
yeah, it's very sticky.
So very sticky.
But yeah, and then you have a baby, you realize as you're growing this baby, you're oh, who cares about career? I'm creating life right here. Holy shit! And then you kind of fall in love with each other in a different way.
Aww.
Which is really nice. It's Vice President Pence, like mother, father, like, they call each other mother and father.
That's cute. So you guys are like Pence and mother.
Yes.
Pretty much
very into the Pences.
But I should say that both times that we got pregnant, we meaning Lindsay, it was like a surprise to me. Like she did.
You guys weren't planning.
No,
we
they
did.
Were both
we weren't
surprises.
planning, but we weren't not planning.
Gotcha,
Once we stopped not planning, then that's when we sort of had babies, whatever. But also she also
bro, we had no idea what was happening. Bro, I actually thought I couldn't.
You thought you couldn't?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Why didn't you think you could? Well,
because I had an issue, and where get personal. I already talked about my cousin Merritt. I had a miscarriage. I didn't know I was pregnant. And I had a miscarriage.
I'm sorry.
And
in between kids?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Just accidentally got pregnant and then didn't know and then realized, oh my God, I had a miscarriage on Mother's Day. And I know, very dramatic. And but it wasn't some crazy scene, but it was oh shit.
Did you know you were pregnant?
No.
Oh, so okay. Wow.
No.
So you must have been a month or two.
Yeah, it was not far along. Yeah, it was weeks, a few weeks. And so I had been to the doctor and I was she was like, yeah, this happened and it happens, it's common and, it's a good thing because your body knew something wasn't right and something wasn't healthy and this is what your body is supposed to do. So I actually had a very, ended up having kind of a positive view on it because, my body was doing what
it's supposed to do.
Yeah, heaven forbid you have to face a choice months in.
Yeah.
And you don't, that's once you have a kid and you realize how much you can love something. Yeah. I love Paul. Paul is
he's all right.
My king.
Dungeon master.
So glad you're recording this. My king.
But if I have to make a call between him and my kids,
sorry, Paul.
Rear view.
That's right.
And it should be the same way for me. He should leave me.
She told me in no uncertain terms if they're hanging off a cliff, I have to save the kids. There's no.
Oh yeah, no, and because if he saved me and not one of the kids, I would murder him as soon as I got my footing.
How does this conversation start?
Like any conversation. You know what I was thinking?
You talk about crazy things when you've been together 20 years. You run out of regular stuff and then you're like,
we also have an extra vow that we added after our marriage, which is divorce before murder. After watching enough 48 Hours Mysteries, we have agreed, look, if it ever gets to this point, let's just get a divorce and not try to murder each other.
Yes, and it is a vow I take very seriously.
Me too.
Yeah, that it's just no questions asked. Just say, you know what? I'm out of here.
Yeah.
It's either this or murder.
Yeah, or I'm going to hire a hitman.
The stalker has the opposite.
Right, yeah. He just
before divorce.
Yeah.
So my mom had 2 miscarriages in between kids. Did that affect you at all? You were nervous about having the next kid, or you didn't know you could? Did the doctor say you couldn't have?
Well,
kids?
The doctor had put me, was okay, so this happened. You've miscarried, and so in a month your cycle will restart. Menstrual cycle periods.
Thank you. I need some women's splaining.
Yes, and so until. My interpretation of what she was saying was until then, you're safe, pregnancy-wise.
Okay, you won't get pregnant.
Yeah, because she was were you trying to get pregnant? And I was like, no, it just happened.
But also, you weren't not trying to get pregnant.
Right.
Because we
weren't being careful.
Right, we had decided, well, let's sort of open the gate and see what happens.
Yeah.
Right, because we were we decided because that's how we had our first one. So we were that's how we're gonna have our second one. It's okay, we'll just sort of let nature take its course, sort of.
Okay.
That's how I recall it.
Okay, yeah, I never remember that part. I just remember the moments finding out.
Sure.
But I did think during this point I can't get pregnant because my body was resetting or whatever was my incredibly incorrect interpretation of what my doctor was saying, and then. And then
super sperm.
We had sex, yeah. We had a sex again.
Yeah.
So we lied 3 times.
Okay.
Isabel, miscarriage, bro.
Yeah.
And then I had a dream. Which is what I do when I get pregnant. And I had a dream, and I woke up in the morning, and I was like, oh shit.
No kidding. What's your dream?
Isabel's dream. It's so funny. The kids were asking me this last night. Isabel's dream was I knew I was pregnant, but I didn't know. It was very early. It was
but
like
can I say just a little piece that I want to say earlier?
Yeah.
Like both times that Lindsay found out she was pregnant, she did a test, but in secret. Mm-hmm. She never told me.
I don't need the pressure.
She doesn't need the pressure, which is fine. I totally get it. But I would like come home from whatever, like do I'm a goofball, and then she like sitting like the first time I remember, she's like sitting in the living room like something had happened, and I was like, oh God, what did I do? And I was like, what happened? And she's like, we're gonna have a baby, and I was like, oh my God! But it was like so it was so crazy.
But I was very stressed because we had kind of decided like, okay, we'll start trying, but we wanted to find. I was on a series, and it was like, let's see if we're gonna come back for season 2.
Yeah.
Because my character in the show was kind of like a sexy,
What was your series?
It was for Stars. It was called Hollywood Residential.
Okay.
And so there wasn't a way that I could play this part and be a pregnant person.
Right.
So it was kind of, and nobody ever tells you getting pregnant's really easy. You only hear the stories of like hundreds of thousands of dollars and, like in vitro and stuff. So we had started like, okay, let's just see what happens. And it was like the next day we got pregnant. Right. So when he came home, I was like, oh shit, like I'm never going to work again. And I mean, the show was canceled.
So because of your pregnancy
for a different reason.
No problem. Yeah.
But even so, the second one too, I was like
free.
Walked in, I was like, what's going on? She's like, we're having a baby. I was like, oh my God, like sort of crazy.
But then shortly after that, so I knew I was pregnant.
Oh right.
I had
Sorry.
this
Say Isabel's dream.
So Isabel's dream was I had these 2 like angel cherub ladies, like these big round like old fat faces that were very happy, and they handed me a baby, and then I looked down at the baby and she had the face of a little old lady. And so when I woke up I was like,
creepy,
it's Isabel.
Oh.
Isabel was my grandma.
Oh.
And my grandma had passed away.
Oh, and you already came up with the name?
So like when I woke up, I was like, "That our baby is Isabel. That's our baby." So I told Paul, I'm like, I think we have to name her Isabel. This was my dream. This is what my dream was telling me.
Wow.
And Paul graciously agreed. And then with Bro, I didn't know I was pregnant. I woke up one morning and I had dreamed. In my dream, it was that my sister-in-law was pregnant with a little boy. But then as soon as I woke up, I was like, that's not what that dream was. That wasn't my sister-in-law. That was me. And oh shit, I'm pregnant. And oh shit, it's a boy. Like, I don't know what to do with a boy.
She knew it all ahead of time. Like, she would go to the doctor and the doctor would say, oh, you're pregnant. She's like, I know. It's a boy. She's like, I know. Like,
yeah, I used to bat with my OBGYN. She used to say, like, do you want to know? And I'm like, I know. She's like, every pregnant woman thinks they know what they're having. And most of the time they're wrong. And I said, if I'm wrong,
it's at least 50-50. It's a 50-50.
Right. But I said, if I'm wrong, I will buy you and your entire office lunch. And she was like, you're on. What are you having? I said, a girl, a boy. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Now you owe me lunch.
Yeah, now you owe me lunch. She just had a book come out. She should buy me lunch.
Wow. So where's Bro come from?
When he was first born, we would call him Baby Bro.
Isabel's baby brother, Baby Bro.
I see.
And now his nickname is just Bro. But his name is Paul.
Oh, you're Paul Jr.?
Yeah.
A junior.
Yeah.
I'm a third.
Oh, really?
Oh, can we call you Trip?
Nope.
Damn it.
That's what I was hoping
Damn it.
Nope.
Yeah, so we just call him Bro. But now he's at school and everyone calls him Paul. And
Yeah, we try to call him Paul at school now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bro can be. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Hey,
especially in
Bro.
California, it's like people are like, hey, bro. But it doesn't even make the list of names that you hear on the playground when you live in California.
Yeah. What do you mean? Oh, just like weird names.
Yeah.
Like Jetstream.
Ooh, Jetstream is good.
Kal-El.
He does have in his class, he has a blackjack.
Blackjack, okay.
Yeah.
But I've heard like on the playground, like Arrow.
Sonnet.
Song.
Saw it?
Yeah.
Wow,
Satchel.
Satchel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard of satchels.
Different ones.
Yeah.
LA. Good, typical like sort of LA names.
That's why LA is awesome.
Lindsay, did you finish high school?
I did finish high school. Yes.
You became a model.
Yes. A very unsuccessful teen model, as I like to say. Yes.
Okay, very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But then you went to did you go to college?
I did not go to college.
You just started
went to a
modeling.
little bit.
I took some classes at Santa Monica College.
Okay.
I enrolled and then I dropped everything but the theater class. But that was after I had retired from modeling.
Okay.
When
you did stuff in like Milan and Tokyo and stuff, right?
Yeah. I
While you were still in high school?
No, I graduated high school and moved back to the LA area, into the Inland Empire. And I had a modeling agent, so I would go on castings in LA, and then I ended up through them getting an agent in Tokyo. So then I went to Japan for a couple of months and worked there, and then I went to Milan for a month, and I really enjoyed like traveling and partying. I did not enjoy the modeling.
Okay.
I was not very good at it. I just wasn't like. The only reason I was a model is because I was 5'10" and 100 and like 16 pounds or whatever, you know. So it was like I was just a rail, which for my entire life had been a negative. Like I'd made me a target, and now it was like, oh no, but in this they appreciate that. It wasn't like because I had some gorgeous face. Paul appreciated it too. But it's like I didn't get boobs until I was like in my 20s. Like I was just like a. And but they like that. They like the, you know, just like
wafy kind of
like just a gangling, just a gangler. And so I traveled instead of going to college. College was never something that was pushed hard in my house, and it was nothing that I ever thought I would do. I applied to one to see if I could get in, and I got in, and I was like, Arizona State. I believe they let everyone in.
Okay.
It's
but
one of the top party schools.
Yeah, you know, but I was just like, I want to see if I can get in somewhere. I'll apply to this school. And I did the application. I got in. I was like, okay, great.
Okay.
I'm not going, but great. Good to know. Good to know I was invited.
$30 admission fee or whatever, processing fee. So what was it like? I just went to Tokyo last year for the first time, and I really enjoyed it. And what was it like, your experience there? You didn't know any Japanese, I assume.
No, didn't know any Japanese, didn't know any people. It's, you know, when you're 18 and, you know, just kind of like I was by myself, you know, I had my agents there, but...
Where do you live? Who do you live with?
There are model apartments.
Oh, wow.
And so I lived in an apartment. I lived in a building with a bunch of tiny apartments, and like smaller than your kitchen was like it was like this.
Yeah.
And then,
like
which is very helpful when you're listening.
10 by 10.
Yes. And then a bathroom. And everything was very small. I was forever like banging shit because I'm just so much larger than the average Japanese person. So I was like ducking indoors and like bruises all over me. And I remember the first week, you know, being there, just being very isolated. And I was the first kind of model.
Because that's scary going
there.
out. I mean, going to a place that doesn't speak English, you're going by yourself.
Yeah, and different alphabet, different like every, you know.
You're just out of school.
Yeah. So it was very... it was another super, like changing schools in the middle of your freshman year of high school. It was another just completely like eye-opening trial by fire experience that just completely opened my eyes to a world far beyond the one that I knew.
Did moving around a lot as a kid help you with these big moves as an adult?
Well, we didn't move that much. Like I was in Palos Verdes from like the time I was 3 till like 13. Okay. And then we moved to La Quinta. So I wasn't like one of those kids that like was switching schools all the time and became a professional friend maker. But it was definitely something that teaches you to be independent and to count on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and especially when you're dealing with people that don't speak your language, and, you know, like I remember like trying, like the sweet Japanese woman at the corner store, I was trying to buy a cup of noodles. Mm-hmm. Because I just wanted to eat something that was familiar. And like we had this whole like charades of like trying to figure out what flavor this was. I'm like, I don't want like shrimp or fish. I just want like chicken, and I'm doing a chicken, and she's like holding up different things. And like when we got it, it was like we were both like hugging and like, yes, this is the chicken cup of noodles, which was like $9 or something. But you know, it teaches you to stand on your own 2 feet, which comes in handy.
Any stalkers there? Japanese stalkers?
Now that you mention it, no.
Okay. What was working at the Viper Room like? Did you meet Johnny Depp or anything?
I waited on him a couple of times.
Wow.
Oh.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Back then. He's kind of a mess
today,
now.
I still give him credit today.
Really?
He can operate on credit. Yeah, it was fun. Saw a lot of like fun bands, like one night, like Billy Idol just got up and started playing, and Neurotic Outsiders used to play there, and lots of really fun acts would play there. And I was there post River Phoenix, so I was not there during that time. I think pretty much everyone else I worked with was. But so you'd get some like creepy tourists coming in and be like, "Where did he die?" And just like, which is just like, get out of here, you're not right in the head. But yeah, it was fun.
Paul, you have tattoos.
I do.
What do they mean? Do you have some?
One means seek truth, and one means like do your best and never give up.
And they're Japanese symbols?
Yeah.
Japanese symbols. What made you get those?
I got this one when I was in college. I just wanted to get one, and I sort of wanted to get something that I would sort of believe in the long run, like seek truth. That seemed like a pretty good one. Mm-hmm. And then I got the other one. I was in this class, and this teacher would say "ganbatte," which means like do your best and never give up. And so I was like, oh yeah, I really like that. And so I just got.
What class was that?
It was a class at Northwestern. It was like a Suzuki class this guy taught. Oh. It was really cool. It was just one class, but it really affected me. But I got this one on our honeymoon in Lindsey. She's a flower. She got it on our honeymoon.
You have a flower?
A poinsettia, yes.
Can you see?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, it's big.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Because you're great.
My middle name is Poinsett.
Okay.
Because my one of my ancestors was like the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, like way back when.
Okay.
And that's where the poinsettia comes from, Mexico. And he went there and he was like, I'm going to steal this from the brown people and bring it to the white people.
This flower.
And so he brought it to America and cultivated it, and they let him name it. And we're all raging egomaniacs, so we named it the poinsettia. So that's why, when you get a tattoo, you want to get something that you you feel like,
hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Stick with them.
I mean, I have ones that I shouldn't have gotten, but
what else do you have?
Good. I have a leopard.
Okay, where's that?
Where do you think it is?
Bottom of your foot.
Oh, that's a good idea. No, it's like it's not quite a tramp stamp because it's not in the middle of the small of my back. It's like more of the right butt cheek area.
Okay. A leopard, like a full leopard?
Like a leopard on a tree, man.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, no. When you're 18
you went for
and
it.
living on your own, you make a lot of really good decisions.
Well, the Inland Empire is an enlightened
Inland Empire,
area.
yes. It's
the worst tattoos are like thigh tattoos, like just giant thigh tattoos.
I think the boob tattoos for me are the worst.
Those are pretty
when
good
people
too.
And they have
That's
like the
serious.
claw or a name. That to me is like, oh.
That's pretty good.
Baby made a boom boom.
Baby made a boom boom. And you was mentioned earlier you worked on Singled Out. What'd you do on Singled Out?
I was a PA.
Now
that was my first job in television.
With Jenny McCarthy or Carmen Electra?
Yes.
Jenny years.
And Carmen.
Oh, both.
I'm yesing both. Yeah. Yeah. I was waitressing at Hennessy's in Manhattan Beach, and one of their contestant coordinators used to come in there for drinks, and he was trying to get me to be on the show. Like as the picker in the chair.
Right.
And I was just like, I have a boyfriend, I'm not going to do it. And he was like, well, we need a tape day PA. And I was like, what? What's a PA? That sounds amazing.
Does it pay?
Yeah, and it did, $75 a day.
Ooh,
wow.
Cha-ching.
Yeah.
You were probably making more as a waitress.
Well, yes, but not nearly as glamorous as being a PA.
Right.
And so from there, I ended up, just working on the show, and I would be in little skits on the show.
Oh, really? I was watching back. I probably saw you.
Probably.
Yeah.
I used to be Blair from Facts of Life and Pippi Longstocking and like a super racist Middle Eastern chic lady. What's a lady chic? Like a harem girl.
A sheiky?
Yeah, a sheiky.
Shigette?
A shigette. And
didn't you also recruit for a while?
Yes, and then I became a contestant coordinator, which is like that you basically, your job is to like go out at night and go to bars and go to clubs and find people to be on the show. And everyone thinks you have the greatest job in the world because you're out drinking every night. But like after a couple months, you're like, oh my God.
And you must
I just want to drink in my house.
Asshole LA guys just hitting on you and being inappropriate and being weird.
Yes, but yes. But men being inappropriate with me as with all women or most women is so part of the norm that it like I could not tell you one thing that like someone said or did that was inappropriate, because as a woman,
it's a constant stream.
That is your life.
Yeah.
It is now being talked about more, and so but I mean I have to educate myself on what's okay and what's not okay because I mean I'm 42, so I mean with most women my age.
Tell them about when you cut your hair.
Oh yeah, well I cut my hair.
When we first met, she had short hair.
Okay.
Like boy short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like short and red, like really bright red.
Yeah, I would go between red and blonde.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and once I cut my hair, it was like I eliminated a bunch of like the frat guys and like I eliminated a huge segment of douchebags from hitting on me, which was
and
nice.
really just teed up for like the fanny pack and ponytail set.
Yes. That I got nerds and artsy guys, which was thankfully.
Yay.
Thankfully.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
But I went through your IMDb and you've had a lot of cool projects. You've done a bunch of Bob's Burgers. You do a lot of voiceover. Do you like doing the voiceover?
I love doing voiceover. Voiceover is so much fun, especially Bob's Burgers. That show, it's just a funny show, but the people that work on it are genuinely like some of the funniest and kindest people that I've ever, had the pleasure of working with.
Yeah.
So anytime I get to do that show is always such a treat. Voiceover is fun. Voiceover is great. I mean, that is, especially when you get to be like my age as an actress, like Hollywood's like, ew. Like they don't like, they don't want the camera pointed at this. So, to be able to work and, not have to be seen is great.
Yeah. A lot of pressure's taken off, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure.
Like you did that episode of The Office where you were a Hooters girl, right?
Yes. And everyone there
really
thought
funny.
I was an actual Hooters waitress. Everyone that worked on the show, except the people that I knew. But yes, they were forever like trying to get me to do my own hair and makeup. And I'm like, no, I am an actress. My character has a name. Like I don't know how to do Hooters girl makeup. But yeah, so much fun.
That's funny. Who'd you get to work with in that scene?
Steve Carell and the guy who played Jim. I don't know his name. John Krasinski.
How was it? Were they cool?
Yes.
Did you know Steve by any chance?
I did not know
From
him.
improv?
I knew some of the writers and some of the actors on the show, but I did not know him. And, he was lovely and we got to improvise a little bit when we were shooting. And, so for me, for him, I'm sure changed his life. For me, it was such a huge treat. When you get to work with great people, it's like...
Yeah, because you Kate Flannery and Angela Kinsey.
Yeah.
Modern Family. You did a Modern Family. Hannah Montana.
Yes.
With Miley Cyrus. Did you get to work with her?
Yes.
What was that like?
Yes. It was interesting because I did the second episode. So like they had just gotten picked up from the pilot. So nobody knew who she was or...
Was she 14, 15, something like that?
Something like that, yeah. And she going on 40.
Yeah.
Like she was so like together and very nice. I just remember thinking, oh my God, this kid is like so got her shit together.
Yeah.
And Billy Ray Cyrus, I was Billy Ray Cyrus's love interest in that episode.
Oh, wow.
Possible recurring, but then it tested well that they did not like him having a girlfriend.
Oh.
So,
Billy Ray.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because it was before anything had aired, so it was just like another day of work for you. And we're like, whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like,
yeah, my niece at the time was a kid and she was like, why didn't you get an autograph? And I'm like, nobody knew who the fuck she was.
Yeah. Right. You knew who Billy Ray was though by that point.
Yeah,
right?
Achy Breaky Heart.
Yeah.
But he was like a punchline.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he probably still is, but certainly nobody knew.
Were they
were
they cool on set or
Yes.
was it okay?
Everyone was lovely.
She didn't discover what's that drug? The weed.
Salvia.
Salvia. She didn't discover that yet.
I don't think she was salvia yet.
Were you in The Ring?
I was in The Ring.
Oh my God!
I
love
know.
that
I'm
movie.
very old. EJ,
we're the same age. I'm 41. So we're
I'm
the same
42.
age.
I'm very old.
Yeah. Well, I love that movie. That's like one of my favorite scary horror movies.
It's a good one.
It's a freaky one.
It's creepy. We shot my scene. I played a nerd, and it's like, yes, I'm in these things. I have like 3 lines.
Yeah.
I'm barely in them. I'm near them.
And the director was Gore Verbinski.
Yes, Gore Verbinski, and who was fantastic and lovely. And we shot in a shut down mental institution. My scene that's in a mental hospital, and I play like the sassy kind of nurse. And I did a lot of sassy nurses in my career. But they had the doors with like just the little window peeking, you know, like just for the eyes and shit like that. It was super creepy in Camarillo, California. And it was very creepy.
Who'd you have your scene with?
My scene was with the dude. Martin? Was that his name, the actor?
I remember.
It was not Naomi Watts. It was the male Naomi Watts.
And that movie was scary. We went and saw it at a cruise screening, and people.
That's how little I was in it. I was at the cruise screening. I was not going to any.
People had made the movie. People were still like freaked out. The movie was so scary.
It was very scary.
That movie. After it ended, I just sat there in my chair for like 10 minutes, just soaking it all in. I was like, that just made me feel it felt terrible.
Oh my gosh!
I really made an impression on me.
They're doing another one, I think.
Yeah, they are. It's called Rings. Reno 911, that's fun, right? It's always a good time.
Yes.
We know a lot of people that have been on that.
Oh my gosh, great. And the nice thing is those guys call you when they hire you. So it's really? It was like Tom Lennon and oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but only because I'm being forced to think of it on the spot. Ben Garant. Mm-hmm. Like they call you and like, hey, so we really liked your audition. We want you to do like this character and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe, because I was a huge fan of The State.
Yeah.
So it was like these guys for me were like rock stars.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are rock stars, but at that time, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be working with like Carrie Kenny and like, who I didn't work with, but, but yeah. I've
so cool.
been very, very lucky.
And Sarah Silverman show, you did a few episodes of that?
Yes.
How was that? Sarah's really cool.
Oh, she's so great. And Steve Agee, and my friend John Schrader, who's now also a writer on Bob's Burgers, was a writer on that show, and had brought me in for an audition, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And everyone on that show, like, as nobody ever talks about like the shows where all the nice people are, but I feel like I've been very lucky to work on shows where everyone is just like interested in being funny and nice.
Because you even worked on that show when you were pregnant.
They brought my character back when I was pregnant with my first kid. Yeah.
Nice.
And they really took nice care of you, didn't they? They had a chair for you and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. They have a chair for my cankles, And then they brought me back after I had the baby. So, like, I was, like, nursing and, like, they were very lovely and accommodating.
They're very sweet, for sure.
Yeah, Sarah Silverman's a genius.
Yeah.
As we all know. That's not news.
Did you get to be friends with her?
No.
You guys close?
Well, she thinks we're friends, but I'm trying to cut it off.
Well, yeah, I like this in your resume, stacked with Pamela Anderson.
Yes.
And Christopher Lloyd.
Yes.
I watched a couple episodes of that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was like, yeah, Pamela Anderson, I'll see whatever she's
doing. What's she doing? Sure. I occasionally still get residual checks. That's airing somewhere.
Once you watch all the VIP episodes, you have to go over to Stack.
Gotta do something.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was working with her like? Was she pretty professional, or she's doing a sitcom now?
Yeah, she was very, very professional, very friendly. I mean, why wouldn't you be?
Okay.
I feel like if you're hot and famous, like if hot and rich, like it's just like you better be as nice as pie.
Yeah.
And she was very nice, as was Marcus Schenkenberg, who was also male supermodel.
Yep.
Who was also in that episode.
Did you meet Christopher Lloyd?
It's a different Christopher Lloyd.
What do you mean?
It's Christopher Lloyd, the writer.
No, but the Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future was on the show.
Was he?
Yeah.
I never met him.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. He was
Christopher
on the show.
Lloyd is one of the writers.
Yes,
that's funny.
Right?
Yeah, there's
Steve
two.
Levitan.
Yeah, Steve Levitan and Christopher Lloyd
There's
are
two Christopher Lloyd.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't think I met the other Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, that's funny.
I'll say that I got cast on the show as well, and then I got replaced at the last minute, but I did meet Christopher Lloyd.
Oh,
okay. What?
Which one? The actor? Okay, you did. Okay.
But they replaced me with what's his name?
Scott
Adsit. I was like, God damn it!
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Darn your good looks, Paul Vallaincourt.
Movie star looks.
I just interviewed Scott.
He was in my pilot. He's very funny.
Yes, and Star Trek Enterprise. Did you work with Scott Bakula at all?
I did.
I love him.
I did.
I love him.
Mandals. In case you're wondering what he wears on his feet in the makeup trailer. Mandals.
I wasn't wondering. That's why I brought it up.
Yes.
A lot of that.
Yes. Doing Star Trek was really, really cool. And I was an alien, which was really cool. So I got to have makeup and like 70s weird hair. Yeah.
You did a movie, something called Tilda, but that had Diane Keaton, Ellen Page, Jason Patrick. Did you get to work with them?
Have you heard of them?
Nope. I've heard of them.
They're up and comers. none of my scenes were with them.
Okay.
No.
They're
That was a pilot for HBO based on Nikki Fink. And it didn't go. Directed by Bill Condon.
That's a drum. I wonder why it didn't go.
I don't know.
It wasn't good. It
was probably. I mean, you heard that cast. Stinko.
I know.
And Bill Condon. Oof.
Come on.
What's he up to?
That's so good. And then, all right, so you wrote a pilot for Amazon called Salem Rogers about a model.
Model of the year 1998.
With addiction.
Yeah. Yes. She gets
pulling
kicked
from
out of
your own
rehab.
Life? Are you pulling?
No.
From your own life for this?
I don't struggle with addiction.
No,
I let it have its way with me.
But you know.
Yes.
You've been around it.
Right, yes. But no, this is more my obsession with celebrity rehabs and places like Promises that I just think are ridiculous. And it starred Leslie Bibb and Rachel Dratch.
Yep.
And Scott Adsit, aforementioned. Yep. And Paul Vallaincourt as a self-help guru, Cash Bannister.
Yep.
And it was great. And Jane Kasmerick was in it, Harry Hamlin. Highlight of my career in small letters.
And how does that? So it was just the pilot, right?
Yeah, we piloted, and then it went out there.
Yeah, and they do a thing, right?
They do a thing,
vote thing or something.
It's voting. Yeah, it's people comment and give it stars and whatnot, and then
there's some
at the end of the day,
and some algorithms involved.
Yes, and then at the end of the day, it's just 7 people that Jeff Bezos gets in a room and is okay, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much the stars were in, because we did have a pretty good response, but we didn't get picked up. So
that's rough. That's a tough way to go about that.
Yeah, on one hand you're thrilled that you've made something that you're proud of, and the other hand you're but didn't we do everything right? And I'm still getting fucking peed on. And
are you still writing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I still write.
Do you guys write together?
We worked on something last year together, but not a ton.
Yeah, we went out with a pitch last year, but mostly I write. I worked on wrote on a series for Bravo. I was in New York for a bunch last year, and mostly I write by myself. But we would like to do something together.
Yeah,
it's just hard, because then who's gonna watch the fucking kids?
They're getting older.
They are getting older.
More independent.
They are getting older.
Right? They're probably playing video games all day anyway, right?
Oh my gosh, left to their own devices, that's certainly what they would do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Mike and I actually play video games.
So what are you guys up to next? What's on?
Picking up the kids.
Yeah.
Heading out of here to pick up the kids.
No, what are you up to next?
I'm just working on my YouTube series.
Oh yeah, you have improv tips.
Yeah,
which
working on that.
Really
getting
cool.
ready to, I think maybe transition that into something else. And then just writing, trying to get some specs together and get ready to go out with that kind of stuff. And teaching at the I.O. and doing shows. I have a show tomorrow. And
what shows you in now?
I'm just doing Man versus Movie and Beer Shark Mice.
Okay. Is Beer Shark coming back?
I don't know. It's hard to say. It's when the stars align for it, because everyone's working so much. So I hope so, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I always sound so grim about it when people ask me. I hope it comes together, but I don't know. Is the honest answer.
When I moved out in 2003, they were already talking about not doing it anymore.
Exactly.
And I'm glad 14 years later they're still kind of doing it.
Every tour is the farewell tour for this endeavor. So for me as a player, I love doing it so much. I just try to enjoy it while we're doing it and just sort of have fun with it and not not worry about what's next or whatever.
Because they were 5 guys that did the show for many years, and they're really close, and then you got pulled on.
Yeah, well, they were a group of guys, and then Pat McCartney was originally part of the group, and then he moved to New York, and so they were down a guy, and then I was sort of like their go-to sub guy when they were sort of really shorthanded, and then I was there a lot, and then Pete Holney in an unceremonious way was like, you're just in the group, right? Just keep coming. I was like, okay, great. And that's how
it's kind of like your proposal.
Yeah.
Very much so. I guess all justice. Yes. That's how it happened. But yeah, so now it's been a few years. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So go see it if you're able to. Do you have anything you want to plug? Twitters, Instagrams, websites, anything like that?
I have all those things. I don't have a website. No.
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at What's Up with PV.
Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Lindsey Stoddart, and Lindsey has a camera phone. But So
Lindsey
touche,
has
Paul.
a camera phone? Is that
Lindsey
on
has a
Twitter?
camera phone is what I
That's right.
am on Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh, Instagram, okay.
And then also my improv tips on PV Improv on YouTube.
All right. Go check that out. Learn how to improvise.
Yes,
And-
remotely.
Read your books. Did you talk about your books?
Oh no, and I also have a book called The Triangle of the Scene, which is a book I wrote about improv. That's I think it's sort of one of a kind in the sense that it has. It sort of talks about the exercise and the philosophy and stuff, but then there's embedded video or clickable video that sort of demonstrates what the book talks about. So you can really, it's basically sort of my basic philosophy of improv, what I sort of teach in my level 1 class, and what I think are the basic skills that you need to really kill in improv. It's called The Triangle of the Scene.
Go get it. Thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
man.
Thank you, EJ.
And we'll see you.
And EJ's listeners.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you on stage or on TV.
Sounds
Yes.
great. See you there.
Or in the funny papers.
Or in the funny papers. There you go, folks. Thank you so much, Lindsey and Paul. Really great talking with you guys. I've known you guys for a long time, and it's nice to learn about these people that you've known for so long. Awesome. So go check them out on stage, on TV, and Paul's book and all that good stuff. And I'm sure on social media too. Cool. Speaking of which, follow me once again on Twitter at EJ Scott, at EJ Podcast, EJScott.com. It's the website, Instagram, EJ Scott 1106. Running Blind documentary, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, crowdrise.com/7on7 for charities. And that will do it. Go subscribe to my podcast on iHeartRadio and iTunes and check out some of my past podcasts. You'll be glad you did. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.